Good morning, everybody, and welcome to another Ascension Messages. My name is Bobbie Richardson, and I'll be your guide for today. Today, we're going to talk about something that I've always got excited about, interdimensional beings, ETs, extraterrestrials, aliens, off-planet beings, that sort of thing. So I did a post, and it is up on my website. So if you want to go check out my channel messages on my website, I do still post to that. And I thought to follow up with a video of some sort with some more explanation, maybe get some channel messages from them, and see where we go with this. So this is all on extraterrestrials and interdimensional beings. Good morning. My whole life, I have been able to see interdimensionally. I've had many frequent visitations from beings. From some of them made sense, some of them did not make sense until I started taking the rays. I literally was bombarded in the early 2000s, or like around 2005, 6, and I decided that I just put out that, this is too much. And so I was told to ask certain questions if I wanted to take the reins. So that's what happened. And it slowed down a bit. And then it slowly got less and less, because I think they were trying to communicate more with me and telepathy, channel messages. And so it ended up fading completely off. The last vision I had was I woke up and saw an older lady, and she put her arms across. She was like sitting up on my bed beside me, and she had put her arms like this, and then she just lied on me like she was dying. It was the death of something. And before that, a massive X, a few days before, had come towards me. And strangely enough, before the visions really took off, a massive X came towards me. So it was like, this is the end of one phase. And so that was from pretty much birth, although my mum did stop it from happening, because she also saw things and she didn't like it. So her energy was pretty powerful. And when I left home, oh my God, all these visions started coming my way. I did have extraterrestrial contact when I was a little child. And I ended up on the roof of the house one stage. So yeah, there was stories about that. I could have crawled out onto the roof of the house, because we had windows that went onto the lower. I was upstairs, but when I went out there, because my mum said she came home at 3 o'clock in the morning after doing work, she worked nighttime shifts. She saw me running on the roof of the house, which was a steep roof, a metal roof, and I had my hands up like I was trying to catch something, and I was like running backwards, which I don't know how I did that, because when I crawled out of the window just to check out the roof, I couldn't even stand up. Well, my fear took over, so I couldn't even stand up on the actual roof, let alone run backwards on it. It was just too steep for me. So that was interesting. I've had a few experiences when I was a kid, because I could always feel this presence, this other presence, but then I can also feel the dooming presence of this lower vibration that was hooked into the family bloodline as well. So it was a lot more to deal with than other children. So anyway, that's a little bit about me. Since 50 years old, I haven't had any visions. I've just been telepathically communicating with them. and trusting that now they wanted me to step up and trust them that much more. And I do believe I'll probably end up bringing in like seeing them again, but that will be in another whenever we're completely cleared, and I'll probably be aligning with everybody else to see them again as well, because I want to bring as many people as I can to up their frequency. So let's get into this. The reason why we don't see, the majority doesn't see any interdimensional beings, is because eons ago we fell, and I have talked about this, and we stopped. Our intuition was kind of put in lockdown for good reason. They wanted to separate us from meddling in interdimensionally into these other dimensions, because we were like babies with matches. They always explain it that way. So when we fell and we didn't have the link to our right hemisphere, we didn't allow our imagination and our intuition to kick in, it severed our connection to our soul. And we'll always have a connection to our soul, but it was kind of overrode by our logical mind, and hence the reason why those in power, when in power, when we're connected to our soul, we don't need to have any leadership or guidance or anything, because our soul is our guide. Yeah, so we were severed from our soul, and that meant that we didn't have that communication, direct communication to guiding ourselves, to taking the reins ourselves. So we looked outside ourselves for help. The only ones that were there to help us at the time were logical-minded consumerism beings, because there was a massive war that had happened, intergalactic war, and the logical side won because of the energy had fallen, and humanity was supposed to fall. So they introduced agriculture, farming, writing, arithmetic, science, all those sort of things as well. We did have science, but it was also a lot broader. It wasn't just in the material-based science that we have. And now that we are coming back into connection with our soul again, we don't need the leadership to guide us anymore, because we have faith and trust within the higher dimensional self. And then because we trust ourselves, we start trusting others, because the only reason why you don't trust others, even if an interdimensional being came your way, and you wouldn't trust them if you didn't trust yourself, right? So even trust starts with in a journey. It starts with yourself, because as soon as you know, okay, I definitely feel a bad feeling of this, you can get yourself out, walk away, don't give them any attention, and move towards what you love. So you're literally, your guidance system is, and your trust is through your connection to your soul, because your soul will never lead you astray. It wants you to have a good life, wants you to be happy. The universe wants you to be happy. It wants you to have fun and explore and be adventurous and imaginative, and do, even do experiments and have fun with life. But only to the point where it's in compassion and respect for that you are creating, for what you are creating. So when we start to develop and we start to connect back to our soul again, we're going to start having experiences that we see. Like lately, there's been a lot more people seeing spirit balls, capturing them on camera, seen them flick past. I've even had a couple flick past me when I'm talking, because that's just the subtle energies that are always around us of these interdimensional beings. We cannot connect with these higher love frequencies unless we're in the love frequency ourselves. So if you want to connect, say for instance, if someone connects with a lower dimensional being that's in fear or feeling yucky or whatever, or wanting to control you, then you would already be in that frequency for that to be able to come at you. And what it teaches you is that you aren't in the higher love frequencies, and it'll give you more fear to show you just how separated you are from the love frequencies. And then you can make a decision of, I'm going to be victim to this, I'm going to allow this to control me, or I'm going to step out of this mess. I don't need this to be part of my reality. And then you let it go and you allow for guidance, your soul to show you where the next step is for you to move into more loving, happier self. But as we're stepping into more loving and happier selves and taking responsibility for what we're creating, we are starting to become more in sync. We will start to become more in sync with those beings. So at the moment, Earth herself, and the humanity on Earth, has all these different layers of frequencies where there's others residing. But if you can't see, they could make a difference if you ask them for help. So they could almost be seen as your guidance, your guardian angels, whatever. They could make a difference and kind of subtly help you move towards that which makes you happier. But you have to ask. They won't interfere unless you ask, because the higher frequencies can interfere in the lower frequencies, but the lower frequencies can't interfere in the higher frequencies unless they it's kind of like a chess. They show me a chessboard, and then they show me us on the bottom of the chessboard. That's humanity now. Then they show me another layer on top, like a 3D chessboard that goes up, and then the next layer was a bit smaller, but they had like a see-through bottom so that they could see what's going on down there, but we can't see up because it was just black up there. And then there would be other layers and layers, so forth, until it came to just oneness. And the oneness was the light that shone over the whole system, which is just love for everything. So when astrologers go looking for extraterrestrials and benevolent and other beings, they'll look out into the cosmos and they'll see all these planets that are barren, right? The reason why these planets are barren is because their limited mind, their fear-based, grasping, consumerism mind will block them from the love-based frequencies, which is where most benevolent beings and so forth resides. So probably the more loving planet, the more that we would at this limitation of fear, coming from fear in a warring zone, we will see it as war. We will see it as something, not war, but like massive storms, and no way that anyone could live there, because no one is living there in our frequency. No one is living there. So most of the planets and all the planets of the solar system will be seen as having no life, because it locks us into such a separation that we can't interfere with that other life, those other lives at all. So that we can learn we can have a learning-based program. But when we raise our vibration into more love frequency, we will all of a sudden, it'll be like the stories will start changing. Venus will start clearing up, and then we'll go, whoa, hang on a sec. The weather patterns on all the planets are changing, and they actually have, astronomers have noticed weather patterns are changing on the planets. And so you could call that information that's coming from the sun that's shifting everything, or you could actually literally say that humanity in its own self is shifting into higher frequencies. And then in reflection, all of those other planets start to have different weather patterns, or different not so horrific storms and all that sort of stuff that would stop us from interfering, from being able to land on the planet, from being able to interact on the planet, and even see the beings that reside there in the higher frequencies. So the more we uplift our frequency, the more all of a sudden astronomers and people who go out of space, and they will be able to see into these other frequencies a lot better, and all the weather, and that will start. So I did a post on Venus. So if you take Venus as an example, being that it's one of the closest planets, it's got acid rain, it's got fire, very, very, very hot climate. It's like a hell, really. If we, from this frequency, this war-based frequency, went there, this limitation, we would definitely fry, we wouldn't be able to go any further, because that is literally the lock and key for that planet's frequencies not to be interfered with lower war-based people. Very clever, really. And then all of a sudden, we'll hear on the news, Venus is not got the clouds around it anymore, or it's not so acidy anymore, or oh wow, it's got its temperature underneath those clouds is actually way better than what we thought, and that sort of thing will happen. And then the beings from these different higher frequencies will start showing themselves. First, it'll be telepathic communication, channel messages. They want us to get used to their vibration. They want us to get used to how we feel with them, so that we can recognize them when they do physically appear in front of us. We start to recognize that love and that good feeling. And then they will start to appear as spirit balls, because if you go into Dr. Fred Aaron Wolf's quantum physics through 2D flatland, when something from a higher frequency comes through to ours, it will show up as light first, because when we go into their frequency through our love of ourselves and trusting ourselves again, and our connection to our soul and loving who we are, then we start to shine, we start to glow up, we start to produce more light energy frequencies. So it's kind of like us raising up to our light, and then when they come in through their higher frequencies to ours, we see them as spirit balls, and they can dart in and out. But they are literally ships or beings that are coming to give us, keep us in line with those new frequencies and vibrations, and also give us wisdom to keep us motivated, moving forward into these new frequencies, and following our soul's desires and following our passions, and just keeping us cleared. If something happened to us that was really hard, then they will come around and lift our vibration out of it, remind us that we don't have to sit in that vibration, remind us that we can, you know, step out of it and still our mind and focus on what we really love again, and let go and trust that that was supposed to fall away, that sort of thing. Not hold on to the stories, that sort of thing. So they come around like that to begin with. They will enter into your dreams a lot more because, or just as you're waking up, what they told me it was called twilight. Because when we're dreaming, when we're sleeping, when we're in our theta, delta, alpha state of minds, we don't have a mind, and mind is not clouding our judgment anymore. It drops away and it allows us to experience other dimensional frequencies, because the soul can't reside in this very separated frequency for too long. It needs to have sleep so that it can connect back into the timeless frequencies of the fourth dimension and fifth and so forth. And there's a lot of different frequencies that go up. And we've also noticed our DNA will start igniting, more neuron paths will start igniting, we'll be able to see more in reflection. So they can come in our dreams, and they can come as we're just waking up and gift us messages as well. So just sometimes keeping a dream journal or something like that might help, especially if you have a dream that is a normal dream and then it gets interrupted by a being or by something interesting that went, oh, hang on, that was out of the blue. Those kind of dreams, and they can be very vivid, definitely messages from higher benevolent beings that are connecting with us and helping us raise our frequencies. And then after that, we might start seeing more UFOs on the sky. We might be able to manifest them. We ask for them. See, because in higher frequencies are always around us. It's just that we're not able to interact with them, being in a lockdown, warring zone. And then as you raise your frequency, it's not that the third dimension falls away. Third dimension will always exist, because that is a physical dimension for us to learn lineal, time stories and have adventures on a planet in a physical form. But it's bringing in more, it's expanding us into being able to reside in other frequencies or visit other frequencies, and they visit us as well. Because there's nothing wrong with the third dimension. It's not naughty zone or anything. It's just that we're living in the third dimension with only half of our brain connected. We're only living from a logical point of view because that's been in charge, and it's not allowed for our intuition and our imagination to be in balance with that. So yeah, then they will come, they will eventually show themselves, because the higher you raise your frequencies, especially when you start to connect with your soul tribes, they're telling me, because that empowers the frequency even more. We're more likely to be able to connect. We'll probably have a lot of us will connect with Gaia first. So we'll go through the elementals and have these little beings that will help us shift in and out just in these frequencies on Earth itself. But also, it just depends on the story that you want to create too, because everybody has their own stories. And I would suggest to say what excites you, what would be more fun for you to step into, and focus on that being the outcome, but letting it go and allowing you to raise your frequency up to it, rather than forcing it to happen and sitting there impatiently and waiting all the time. Because impatience is is going to resist. There has to be an allowance when we walk into these higher love frequencies. So humanity might come across different beings, different animals, different things that already resided in the higher frequencies. Rediscover animals that were seen as when they're no longer existing anymore. Those can come back. Some of them can come back because they didn't vanish, or they didn't die off. They literally stepped into higher frequencies, and so with them residing there, they were already connected to all those high frequencies, and when humanity fell, we could only connect to those animals and everything that were more in line with the warring and fighting that we had within ourselves. So yeah, I'm just receiving a message from them at the moment, and I'm going with that. So they're telling me that the animals that we reside with now are more like the consumerism, fighting animals, but they also have a higher aspect of themselves that live in a more loving frequency. And in those more loving frequencies, they're not in the consumerism, fighting, warring world. It's like everything starts shifting around us. Yeah, it's interesting. Just tapping into that a bit, but definitely we will get visitations from Venetians, I think they call them. They kept bringing up Jupiter as well. Jupiter, and Jupiter, they said, there's like these different existences on Jupiter with the band. There's like these different layers of bands going around, not on the outside of Jupiter, actually on Jupiter's planet itself. And when it crosses like that, there's like one sort of certain being would reside on one band, and then in another band there's another certain being, and another band and another certain being, and they can interact as well, but there's all these different types of beings on Jupiter that have their own worlds in that band. That's interesting. Okay. If I tap into, let's see what else I can tap into. Uranus is almost like a fun planet, a party planet, a high vibe party planet. That's cool. Neptune, definitely the tales of Neptune being engulfed in having the watery beings in there that reside in their atmosphere is more like water. Yeah. What else? Mars is a hard one for me to tap into, and I don't know why. I do feel like there was some sort of abandonment that happened there. I do believe that there's definitely beings that reside in higher frequencies there, but it's almost like overpowering kind of abandonment feeling, and I don't know. So yeah, I won't even try that. What else? There's also beings that roam around, and they go from planet to planet. They get their energies from suns, so they can tap into the suns and draw energy when they need it, and then they can roam even further and longer out, and they just adventure from solar system to solar system as well. It just depends on their ability to mutate, transform, connect. No being can connect with another planet unless they can morph into that frequency. So they have to have the ability, like a chameleon, to be able to change into the frequency, to be able to interact. And that's why we haven't had that many beings come to Earth when we've been in the warring zone, because they don't want to fall that far. Most beings reside in higher frequencies, and their souls will want to be in that higher frequency. Yeah. So that's why when we raise ours to more of a love base, we're going to all of a sudden have this interaction with these other beings. And also the colors become vibranter as well when you're in the higher frequencies. So I know that people from Venus, like a lot of them will show themselves as humanoid, but they can also morph into spiritual kind of things as well. They have it's like they can morph into different things, so they can have their own reality of what they look like, and then they can morph into spirituals, and then they can morph into humanoids, so that it makes us feel better when we connect with them to begin with. So a lot of the first ones coming out will have that humanoid connection. There are, by the way, there are like draconian looking or lizard looking beings that are good, that are very wise. So just be aware that not all of them are going to be negative. This is why we need to be in this love frequency and learning to trust ourselves first. So that this, at the moment, humanity's in a tight squeeze, and we're learning how to be able to experience these different frequencies and dimensions. And we need to be able to shed all the old programs, bring our right brain into balance with our left brain, let it work together again as harmony, as one. That sends us straight into these love frequencies. We're no longer warring in our brain. We're trusting ourselves. We're trusting that whoever we meet, because we trust ourselves. Fear drops because of that trust as well. Our connection to our soul gets stronger. We can have direct connection to Akashic records and wisdom coming through us, and we can share that wisdom out with other people. We each have a piece of the puzzle, right? So there's a lot of fun, juicy things that are going to come up for us if we do the inner work, if we decide that we're not going to be following in the fear-based scenarios anymore, that limit us into being controlled by another person who's already coming from their fear base and lack within themselves. So lots of fun, juicy things coming when these beings start to show up. You know, as for ships and stuff like that, there's ships that can easily reside in this frequency and materialize in this frequency, and then there's ships that tend to morph in and out etherically. So it all depends on also how the ship's made, whether it is a living being, an entity itself, which has many souls collectively coming together to focus on becoming that transport, so that they can journey from one place to another. So that there's organic ships, there's soul ships, there's soul-based ships, sorry, there's material-based ships. It just depends. There's ships that are cloaked as comets, as meteorites. There's ships that can morph in and out as clouds. They can disguise themselves. They have cloaking systems. They can become invisible if they want to. But majority of them in the love, well, most of them in the love base are all controlled by the mind and a clarity of the mind. So there's a lot of different types of ships. Just like there's a lot of different types of beings as well. Like humanity in their logical sense loves to compartmentalize everything and put it into a clear box. Oh, there's 52 species, or there's, now on Earth there would be 300 and blah blah species. Well, this changes all the time, and there's just so many different species, just as many out there obviously as there are insects on this planet. So to close your mind off to thinking that there's only 32 or 50, that's why a lot of people nowadays aren't just talking about the little grey men anymore. They're talking about all sorts of different shapes and sizes of beings. And it really depends on your soul lineage, where you've come from, who you're bringing through as well. So it would be very unique, can be very unique to you and your soul lineage of who you start communicating with next, but it will be more familiar. My soul lineage is familiar with, and not excluded from others, but familiar with the Pleiadian, Arcturian, Andromedan side of things. So that's what I tend to tap into more. But there's definitely higher frequencies as you go into these nuances. They're saying, don't even know what that word means, nuances, of layers of frequencies that connect us to different perceptions of reality, and those different perceptions reside different beings as well. So there's different beings, many different beings in the fifth and sixth and seventh and so forth dimensions, but also the different layers of beings that we can start to tap into gift us different perceptions of reality too. Just like a cat will have a different perception of Earth to what a human would have of Earth, right? A beetle will have a totally different perception of Earth to what a human has. Our truth is not the only truth. There's so many more truths out there. So I love this talk, love chatting to you guys. Hope I made a bit of sense for you, and I will speak to you soon. Bye.